My name's Guy Kestevan. I've been a pro bike and kit tester for nearly 25 years, and today I've been riding the Hard Rock Enduro on the Focus Jam 6.9. So hopefully you've watched the live ride review, and this is the quick tech talk round to fill you in on the details while the bike's static and you can see them a bit better. So first things, relatively affordable bike, 3,200 quid at the moment, give or take a pound, and it's all alloy, so alloy mainframe, alloy swing arm, and 150mm travel through this Focus fold linkage. I mean, they've been running this three-piece linkage for quite a while now, the basic design, but now they've moved it so the shock goes into the top tube, which leaves you space for a little caddy there, which you can get your tube in, your tool in, and a full-size water bottle cage as well. But the most characteristic thing about this alloy frame is just the vast top tube. I mean, I think someone said it's like an ironing board on there. Huge width on there. I mean, the down tube as well is fairly chunky, but it's definitely that top tube that really dominates it, and a really broad connection there for the front of the shock. So super stiff front end. If you watch the live ride review, you'll already know that, but you can take my word for it just on this static talk round. This is a super solid bike, and of course having the back end all in one piece, it's basically a low pivot swing arm there, and then that's just a shock driver set up on top, but it's braced across the seat stays and the chain stays. But you can see there's still reasonable amounts of mudroom around this 29 by 2.4 Minion DHR on the back. And to their credit, they've put an XO Plus on the rear, so plenty of protection in terms of rocks on the rear, and it's 3C Max Terra, so top quality rubber on there. And before I forget, up front you've got a Minion DHF 29 by 2.5 wide tyre, and that's a max grip. So you can tell from the outset that this is a bike designed for serious control. You've got a Fox 36 performance basic grip damper, but it's the heavier duty 6000 series alloy stanchions, so it's a stiffer fork as well. Still got the QR15 set up there with a little bolt to let you to self-align the stanchions, so there's no seal drag with cause of them tapering in as you compress it, and it's just the basic grip damper on top. But it might be simple, but it's just a really well sorted damper. And then you got rebound on the bottom down there. So coming up to the bars, 780mm Focus's own bar, and then this CIS stem with this kind of weird catfish design where all the cables go up over the top of the bar and then down through the headset. So it looks neat in terms of the cabling being taken away from the frame, but it can cause complications further down the line when you're servicing if you need to change headset bearings, you're gonna have to unplug the cables, unplug the hoses. But you know, it's a while since I blew a headset up, so hopefully it'll be a while. Hopefully it'll be a while before you have to do that. XT brakes. I mean, it's got the cheaper rotor on there, but it's a 200mm at the front and a 200mm at the rear, so plenty of stopping power there. And it's the 4-pot XT, so plenty of bite on there. Focus's own rims on Novatec hubs, 30mm rim though, so plenty of support. And it's the rim's actually made by Rody, who make of rims for a lot of people, so it certainly hasn't given me any trouble during the Ardmores and when I've ridden it previously. Just move around to the other side of the bar, you've got KS dropper post there for the dropper there, good long shaft on it, and it's 450mm seat tube length, so even though the reach is 480 on this large as it is, so that'd be more than enough for most people. But even I could size up to the next size up and still get the dropper post in there. So if you want to go 510 on the extra large, that's a possibility as well. In terms of the rest of the geometry, it's 337 bottom bracket height. I mean, so yeah, you know, reasonably that's just middle ground really. It's not crazy low, but it's certainly not too high. And on the back of the shock, you've got a little high and low chip there. Just undo that, flip it round, and that changes the angles by ½ degree. So in low, as it is now, 65-degree head tube, 76-degree seat tube. And one thing I like about this, but I mean, there's a bunch of practical features on there. There's a bit of is the fact that all the bolt heads really big. It's either 8mm down there or 6mm on all the linkage hardware up there, so you know you're not messing about with tiny little bolts that you're easy to strip. Again, as you'd expect, 148mm boost at the rear, and then while we're on this side, let's have a look at this shock. It's a float DPS Evol, so you've got the larger volume on there, but it's just a single can shock. And as you can see, long stroke. I mean, it actually pushes all the way through the stroke. It's not one of the ones where the stroke is not fully used, and that gives, like I say, 150 mil of travel at the back end. But leverage ratio means it runs a fairly high pressure. I mean, I'm only 70 kilos with a light kit on. No, sorry, I'm only 70 kilos, but even I'm running like 220 PSI and I'm still blowing through the treble. So if I had a bit more time with the bike, I'd definitely be looking at adding volume spacers to it, but also the way the shock rate also means you can run a coil shock on it. The designer of the bike, well, the chief engineer on the project, is a guy called Fabio, and he's actually the German national enduro champion, so he knows a thing or two about building a bike that goes quick. And he runs a coil shock in his. But interestingly, I've said it's designed as a, he knows a thing about making a bike that goes quick. The design brief for this is actually release your inner child. But because it's such a strong, not totally convinced by that, because it's a relatively long bike, relatively stable bike, and all that alloy and all that heavy duty equipment means it comes in at 16.38 kilos, so it's certainly not light either. But you have got some quality kit on here. You've got an E13 chain guide, ISCG tabs for the chain guide there. You've got an XT chain set, XT rear mech, but they have kind of sneaked some budget stuff on there in the form of a Dior chain and a Dior cassette, so that's not going to do weight any favours. But the bonus from having all this heavy duty big tubing, not only is it really precise, accurate and stiff on the trail, it's also rated for up to 150 kilo system weight. So that's rider and pack and all the kit. So while the tagline might be release your inner child, you can certainly wrap a fair amount of adult around the outside of that child as well without the Focus Jam complaining. So that's the bike. Quick details on there. If there's anything I've forgotten about or you want to know more detail on, just hit me up in the comments below. But to get a feel of how this bike rides, this is such an awesome event. I've ridden 6 stages of it today. And yeah, so you can see the bike live in action on that live ride review, which I'll put a link to here. But thanks very much to Focus for the loan of the bike. Thanks to Giro Cycling for sponsoring the channel, and PTs and Crud and DMR as well. Massive thanks to my Patreon supporters who pledge on a monthly basis, just a small amount, but they get extended, early, exclusive and ad-free edits as a thank you. So if you really like what I'm doing with the channel, then please consider joining these guys whose names are scrolling up here and becoming an investor in the channel on Patreon. But click for notifications, click for subscriptions, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, tell your mates about it, share it, and yeah, just, the more people I get watching, the more people I get, appreciating the channel and sharing it, then the more bikes I can get in and the more videos I can create, because the more revenue I'll get. But for now, I've been Guy Kesteven on Guy Kes TV, talking about the Focus Jam 6.9.